Hello, I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Andy Morgan, the CEO of Smart CT, in the studio in London. How are we doing, Andy?
Very good, thank you, Mark, and thank you for inviting me on. Great to be here.
Thank you for coming in. Andy, normally when I get someone on the show, I look through their LinkedIn profile, and I normally find something I can almost tease them about, but ironically with you have something in common with me, because our first jobs were trainee accountants. I was a trainee accountant as
wonderful.
well, my first job, and you were a trainee accountant. So take me back there. Why did you get into that? What made you do it?
Someone told me that, there's a nice way to make some money, and my uncle actually was an accountant, and he was driving some nice fast cars. So I thought, well, that sounds like a brilliant idea. I guess fast forward, becoming qualified, I realised that you needed to do a bit more than that to get those kind of things, and that was owning a business. Yeah, that's where I landed, and I wanted to be in the technology space as well, given the growth. And that's where I got to.
Do you know what? I did ACCA exams. I got halfway through, and it was too hard. It was so dull. I found it so difficult to do. So I had to jump out. So I did it for 6 months, and then I jumped into recruitment. But how long did it take you to sort of do your exams and get qualified?
So I was very grateful. I worked for Westcon, the IT distributor.
Yeah.
And they were kind enough to fund it, which was great. It took me, I think it was, and I know it because I was obsessed with getting there as fast as possible. It took me 19 months to get through the full exam set. You obviously need about 3 years to get your kind of experience ticked off. But I wanted to be one of the fastest to do it. Not sure if I was, but it was relatively rapid. So
when I look at your background, we haven't had many accountants on the show, and not normally that they've come from a finance background and been a CEO. So should I expect a sort of different conversation from you? Is it all going to be like saving paper clips and not spending money, etc.? We can't have any more pencils or pens in the building.
No, I certainly don't get involved in any of that. In my kind of financial, I've probably got two careers, my financial career and then my current one. I spent most of my time with business leaders and as part of management teams about how do we optimize a business, how do we sell more, how do we sell better, how do we make software products the right products, how do we optimize our logistics engine, how do we get the right value for money out of our marketing, which is always very tricky. So I spent a lot of time going around, really in understanding how a business was run and operated, rather than doing a lot of the accounting, which you would expect from a typical accountant.
I was going to say, actually, I'm really shocked you've said that, because in my view, if someone said to me, guess your job, before, when you were just in finance, I would literally be thinking, you're just looking at spreadsheets and saying, we can't do that, but we can do this, we can't do that, we can't do this. So give the listeners a bit of an overview. You would actually get involved with how to optimize processes or save or see a return on investment for marketing and stuff? Actually, business outcomes.
Absolutely, all about business outcomes. And what my what I could say core financial colleagues would always say to me is that I was the one who was colouring in. So I was going in and try and bring either the numbers to life, so people really digest and understand it. Because a lot of times, if you don't come from a financial background, or trying to understand, well, what does that mean? What do the results mean, and what do I expect in the near term in the future? So I spent a lot of my time taking that information and making sure those leaders of either divisions, it might be a divisional MD, it might be a CEO, it might be an R&D manager, a marketing leader, about, right, here's how we understand it, and let's say we had an hour meeting, we spend 5 minutes on these are the facts, but actually, what are we going to do to either save money, make money, or get a better ROI?
How do you evolve into doing that? Because again, I'm looking at your background thinking, you're trained as an accountant, you're trained to look at the numbers. How do you evolve in having that mindset where you're actually looking at cost saving or how we can make money, etc.? Because again, Andy, don't take this the wrong way, I found accountancy so dull, and I don't like looking at the numbers at all. And when I was thinking your background, I was thinking, you're not going to be that sort of way. You're not going to be looking at how to actually optimize sort of process or give. You've mentioned colouring in, how to actually do that. So how did that role evolve?
I think a lot of the time I try to make it my own about, well, actually, what would I want if I'm on the other side of the fence, right? And what's my objective of my team or my business? Well, it's to return an investment to shareholders, right? And that's kind of the core. So I just really focus on that side of it, of what are we going to do more, what are we going to do better. And it was probably more interesting, to your point, is sometimes if you are looking at just numbers all day, it can get a bit tiring. So actually, how do we bring it to life? How do I make my life a bit more interesting as well? There's a selfish angle to it for sure. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was really, really enjoyable.
Let's bring it up to date, because you moved into the CEO role recently. Well, not recently, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, there is a stereotype that finance leaders that are always saying no to every financial decision. That's my opinion, and that's what people tell me. How do you make sure you as a CEO don't slow things down?
Well, I think they probably say no. Let me go to the first point. They probably say no the first time is to see if you really want it. And if you come back with a justifiable case, most of them will say yes. So how do I consider it? Well, from my point of view, I've almost kind of parked that career, in my headspace and gone, right, well, my goal is to, deliver the strategy for our organisation and deliver upon those objectives set with my teams. And if you're going to grow any business, you've got to think about the customer. So the first part really is, well, what does the customer want? Why do they want it? And how do we deliver our business to that? So I've got a fantastic CFO who does all the right things that a finance leader should do. So I don't necessarily have to worry about that too much. Obviously, I've got a keen eye to make sure that things do balance. It probably makes our experience together as CFO to CEO. Well, I hope it's better for him. I mean, I'm sure he'll tell you differently, but I can get the gist of it quite quickly, and then we focus about, well, what will we invest in? What are we focusing on next?
Is it a difficult job for him, you being an ex-accountant and now a CEO? Because I was looking at, if I'm a CFO and I was working for you, I was thinking, he's already done this job. He already knows what to do. He's now working with me. Is it quite a difficult relationship, or does it work well?
I personally think it works well. So
we got to ask him, haven't we?
You've got to ask him, really. So I think I've got someone in who's far more experienced than I am at the financial side, and I'm hoping it should be easier, because if you get the numbers, you're not talking through, okay, well, this is how it adds up here. Well, can kind of generally read it pretty rapidly. So I think it's better, because then you can think about, right, how do we talk more time on the strategy and the future, and also about how we're running the business as well. So it's a real business partner approach from there. Therefore, 90% of the time we speak isn't really about the numbers, it's about what we're doing to drive the business.
You mentioned about rewiring your brain. When you make the big calls, how do you instinctively know what to do? Do you look at risks first, you look at margin first, or do you genuinely have the customer in mind? Because I was thinking, as a finance leader going into a CEO role, are you still quite cost conscious, or are you thinking of the customer more?
First point is the customer, but you got to make sure you balance, right? Because if you can also run too fast and run out of cash, right? So which is will stop you anyway. It's absolutely about the customer first, but also I don't rely on just having perfect data all the time. You can quickly triangulate, right? Is there a couple of data points you can lean on, or even if it's anecdotal or feedback from customers? I spend a lot of time with the customer to make sure I understand why they use us, what they want from us in the future. I use that as a kind of basis of really what we do every day.
In a recent article I saw in CRN, you talked a lot about the customer experience. What do you mean by that? What do you actually mean by the customer experience at Smart CT?
If I look at it, we survey our customers a lot, or we might do there'll be some formal surveys where we ask them questions, but I spend a lot of time going down asking them questions myself to understand it a bit more. And one of the big things that come back is, right, you are people we trust. And for people you trust, you need to get things right first time. And you need to get that right consistently. And as part of our organisation, we're operating fully across Europe and further afield now as well. How do you deliver that consistency at the scale? We use a lot of technology to help us do that, but maybe you have an engineer job in the north of England, or it might be in central Germany, for example. How do you deliver the same experience for the customer and the outcome? We use technology to deliver that. And that comes back to that customer experience is, right, I want consistency no matter where you're doing it. And that's absolutely what we focus on. We really focus on delivering. We've committed you to doing it on time. That is what our mission is to do. There are some times where it doesn't quite go to plan, but we absolutely have the data where we focus on, right, okay, is this going to hit an SLA, for example? Or is a project going to work out well? We use a lot of data points to help us either preempt, or at least at the point where something has gone wrong. Well, how do we focus and fix that to make sure the customer gets the end point they want and communicate? So a lot of things that, in our day-to-day life, if you don't get communicated well, it's a real struggle. And you think, you're starting to think about other things. Well, are they doing this right? Are they doing that right? So we focus a lot on communication as well.
I want to talk about the journey at Smart CT, because you were the finance director, then you moved into the CEO role. But let's talk about that as a company. For the listeners, what do Smart CT do?
So as a business, we're 100% IT services, and we focus on deploying and maintaining technology for IT companies. We do that across networking, server and storage, and workplace technology. Really anything connected to IP is what we focus on, and it could range from a deployment of picking, packing, and deploying networking technology to do an SD-WAN rollout across 1,000 sites. But the biggest part of our business is maintenance, and it's typically a 2-hour, 4-hour, or next business day response time. So when something goes down, we're there to fix that, whether that's in data center, banking, financial services, retail, public sector, kind of the biggest markets for us.
And is it channel only? Is it direct, or a bit of both? What is it?
100% channel only.
Okay.
So that's all we focus on. We sometimes actually get the end customer sometimes approach us, and what we then do is we actually pass those leads on, whether it's a new, potential new, or if it's an existing, trying to go through the process. They think they might be able to, make, shave a couple of points off the price. We're really consistent about, look, it's just not our space to play. Our business isn't set up to do that, and our customers are far better placed to do that. So we're consistent with that. I've been doing it for probably 24 years the business has been running for. So
what happens when you get that, when a customer comes to you direct and said, oh look, I don't want to go through X reseller, can we have 3 points off the price, and we won't tell them, etc. Quite shady, isn't it? But what do you actually do when that happens?
Well, it could always be tempting, right? Because then from our point of view, we go, well, actually our customers are making margin on it, so could we make a couple more points? But the fundamentals is that we're probably working with around 85 partners, but we're supporting around 4,000 end customers. So we wouldn't have that scale and reach if it wasn't for our partners. So you've got to be really honest and to the core to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I asked your sales team about you, would they say you're a commercial leader? Would they just say he's just a finance guy that did well and got into the CEO role, Andy? So what would they say about you, do you think?
Well, I will be asking them where they are on their number, right? And I think I don't think that's only a finance leader view. I think it's running the business because we want to hit the numbers. I've actually been out and sold myself in terms of services that we offer. Not selling myself, that'd be bonkers. Oh, I'd have a go. But I think I absolutely go and demonstrate and lead from that point. I think everyone in an organisation is a seller, and I'm absolutely no exception to that. So I think they'll probably say that I do go out there and show that I'll do it. I'll also join them and help them on that sales journey they're on, and absolutely there to support them in the mission for them to sell more, earn good commission, I hope, and also because that helps our business overall.
You mentioned there that everyone's a seller and everyone in the business should sell. Did you have to change your mindset internally to think, well, maybe I was hiding behind a spreadsheet? I'm not saying you were, but most people sometimes hide behind spreadsheets if they're in finance. But you're saying that everyone should be an ambassador and selling for the company.
I think you touch on that, an ambassador, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's an ambassador of the organisation, and you even take it to your family life, right? And you're an ambassador for your own family. So how do you make sure that a customer, even a supplier, doesn't matter who you're meeting, could even be the bankers, could be an auditor, right? Because my belief is that they'll know someone who might need what we offer. Yeah. So just a general belief in my own life that you've got to be an ambassador for your business, who you work for, because you never know where that lead come from. We can get leads from engineers, we can get leads from our service desk agents. Doesn't really matter because they'll know people who know people, and you've got to show your business in the best light possible. Yeah,
absolutely. You might be one of the first, well, certainly in a few CEOs that actually have led a management buyout. Now, in the real world, what does that actually look like? You're in the company, and then you're going to do the management buyout. Talk me through what happens.
It's really tough, is it? I think I'll perhaps tell a bit about my journey through it. So I So I was CFO of Smart CT, but also its sister company, which was Product Networks. So it was an MSP / VAR, and the founders were exceptional people, exceptional salespeople, and very, very good to me personally as well, and allowed me to learn a lot. And what we decided was that we didn't want anyone to know about what was going on.
It's a secret.
So it was a secret.
Right, okay.
And that came from one of the founders. And I thought, do you know what? I think the amount of effort and time going through a MBO or selling any business, it takes so much time and it creates a big level of distraction.
Yeah.
We spoke to our advisors and they were like, yeah, great. I think I've never worked so hard for about quite a 12-month period.
Really?
I mean, I don't know how many hours a week and weekends, but mentally it was really tough to go through it. And it was purely on the basis that it was a big learning curve for me. And whilst we had great advisors who were brilliantly helpful, just the time that you needed to spend on it, but also keep the business going at the same time, is really tricky. So kind of in hindsight, we should have got more people, not necessarily involved in the business, but more people externally to come in and help us through that process. It was a great journey of learning, actually, because as you're preparing information to even prepare a information memorandum to say, right, this is our pitch to why you should acquire this organisation, you kind of have to go through and prove it with data. So your preconceptions might be, this part of the business is exceptional. Then you kind of dig through and go, oh, there's a couple of little things in here we should be looking at. So as the journey, our process was probably about 12 months from, yes, we want to go to the sale. And we were just evolving things as we go on, because we were learning things. Go, actually, well, maybe we should be doing that. That's really made us think about how we run the organisation. It was a really enjoyable process, but it's difficult. And because where people are buying, they're they're paying a reasonable amount of money for these businesses. They have lots of streams of checks and balances, and they'll triangulate the questions. So you might have one person asking you one question, and another person will ask you the same question but in a different light, and then a third person asking you. So you've got to be really, honest, consistent on that journey. But it was bloody tough. It was really tricky because of that balance of, we want to drive the business forward. You still need to want to keep growing, and what if it doesn't happen? You never know.
Hello IT channel, I want to take a quick 20 seconds out from this episode to thank our sponsors behind me, which is Sonic Will, AMD, Pure Channels, Checkpoint, Arrowsphere, Comms and Enable. Without their help, we simply can't put these shows on, so thank you to you all. Back to the episode. Does it ever get to the point, you mentioned there, you learn about the business as you might find something or efficiencies in the business, or you think, oh, we should be doing that, etc. Did that actually improve the business as you were going through that rigor and due diligence?
I reckon it did, because there were things that we were learning, because we'd start kind of questioning a bit more about the market externally, and then you would also be asking your customers, because you'd be doing interviews with your customers to say, oh, can you share feedback to prove some of these points? And you go, oh, we could do that differently. I'm not sure I had the headspace to check and balance whether we actually if it did make an impact, but we certainly made lots of changes during it, like you would anyway within a 12-month period. It's always surprising, actually, when you look back about, what changes did we make in the last year, we all surprise ourselves what you can achieve in 5 years and, in a year, and so on and so forth.
When you start a process like that, does the sort of price or the offer change in the 12 months? Is it sort of a negotiation back and forth as you go along? Or do you sort of start saying, well, here's the process, we might agree X, or it could be X in a year's time? How does it actually work? Because when you were talking, I was thinking, you might start off thinking, right, I want to do this MBO, and then you might see all these efficiencies and think, actually, things start getting really good, and then actually the price has gone up. This is too good now. I don't want to sell at that price.
I mean, that's the.
Does that happen?
It certainly does happen from what some of my people in my network experience. Because you could win a massive deal, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these businesses are based on EBITDA multiples, or it's a quality of revenue. But if you get yourself a great couple of new customers, or you introduce a new product or service and it starts flying, well, yeah, absolutely, prices move, but it can also go the other way around as well. So ours was relatively stable during the period. It was a post-COVID piece, so people were kind of figuring things out as well. But yeah, I mean, prices can change, and buyers want to, change what they want to pay for, right? And they'll weigh you down, I'm sure.
Hard year, you get it over the line.
Yeah.
Do you then go into the CEO role? Is that what happened? You became the CEO, or were you still the CFO at that time?
No, so I officially moved to CEO role, but in the 12 months prior, I was the founders were, prepping me for that. A lot of decisions, if not all of them, were coming through myself, and they were great mentors and coaches during that period as well. So. It wasn't like a flick of the switch as ta-da, now you're going to run everything here. But a lot of decisions were flowing through me, either whether it be to make the decision or go and deliver the decision right to the team. So there's a lot of engagement with the business. I really understood our business well, even prior to getting ready for exit. Because if I look at the past experiences, I want to know what's going on in that business. That is really important to me. And also, you're invested in it. You're a shareholder in it, and things like that. So you want to know what's happening, and it's really important.
You mentioned it was a secret. Now, normally when an MA or an acquisition or an internal MBO happens, there's a lot of uncertainty. It can either energise people or creates people get scared. They think what's happening, etc. How did you deal with that uncertainty, and then suddenly the secret came out?
For myself, I wasn't so worried. I actually don't mind it being too uncertain. I just just a general attitude I kind of take is right. We'll take it as it comes. But when we let people know about, it was probably a couple of weeks before, because we needed to make sure that people were understood it rather than the ta-da moment. There was uncertainty. Okay, will I have a job after? Where are we going to? Because if you go to a trade sale, will they rationalise and make efficiency? So certainly there absolutely is. And if you don't have the information, you can come up with different answers in your own head, and it might be X rather than Y. A bit like communicating with customers, right? If you don't have that certainty, which is why all these apps like Uber are great, because when your drivers come in, it might say 3 minutes, but it might end up being 10. But it doesn't matter. They're en route, and you can see they're en route, and having that transparency is so important.
Now you've been through it, would you do it again?
100%.
You would?
100%, absolutely. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I thought you said it was the hardest year of your life.
Yeah, but it's about hard things are still good, right?
Yeah.
And the learning I went through personally, it was exceptional. It really was. So if people are thinking about it, I'd absolutely go for it. But it's all about right time of your journey. Whether I didn't found the business, right? I was part of the leadership team. But I can imagine if you're the founder of the organisation, it's a tougher part, because it's a huge change to your life, whether you stay in with the acquired organisation or you depart, right? What are you going to do? It's a trickier balance for a founder, I'd say.
You've grown quickly. What does the next phase of Smart Cities expansion actually look like? What you're doing, where you're going?
Yeah, so part of our mission is to expand technologies that we service. Right, so historically we'd been networking, we've branched out to more networking vendors and introduced server storage a few years ago, but also workplace technologies. And what we're doing is we are continuing to broaden that servicing out to anything that is connected to IP, because that's what we do exceptionally well, and we've proved by broadening our services out to different technologies, we're doing a great job with it. We've been focusing about expanding in Europe, and we've done some great work, in particular in Germany and France, so it's a continuation of that. But the third aspect really is we want our services to consistently be delivered at scale, so that you get the same service in different regions, different countries. And so we'll keep focusing on using technology to help us do that. Now, the reason we're focusing on that is a lot of our customers, I think a lot of our customers, but also a lot of businesses always think that when they're pitching for work, am I big enough to go and deliver this? And I think it doesn't matter if you're a smaller organisation, a medium-sized or a large, can I do this? What we're helping is MSPs that might be regionalised, and they can go, okay, I can do national. I can do a national rollout or a national maintenance agreement. Yes, I can do it. We help people do that. You might be a national based MSP, and they want to go into different technologies. Well, we can help them do that as well at scale. Or you might be a larger organisation, might be an SI, and go, actually, I need consistency in each country, in each geography I'm operating in. Well, that's what we're focusing on as well. So we're not necessarily going out to broaden the services too far, but how can we help our customers scale, grow? That's really important to me and our business. And we're using technology to help that, to give us our consistency, focus on that communication. Look, we're not there yet, right? But we've done some great work, especially in our project side of our organisation, for that consistency, that you've got anybody anywhere can deliver you that service that's really specific for your end customer. So your end customer might be in, I don't know, retail, and they've got 1,000 sites, and you want the same outcome of what's been deployed. Well, that's what we focus on with our technology to do that. Or it might be in financial services. Well, the same thing. They might have 10 things, 20 things. I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is, but we put that into the technology so that our employees who are going out delivering that service will follow that step and get that feedback back. And now we're looking at other things of how we can use AI to actually then power that a bit more forward. So that's a bit of our incubation, if you like, as well.
You mentioned there are lots of customers out there get into maybe fights and deals that they think, we can't deliver this. Have you ever got into a deal where you think, yeah, we can do it, and then you've come back and thought, we can't do this. It's too big. It's too massive. Have you ever got sort of worried? You think, I can't deliver this. It's too massive.
I think everyone does. I think it's just, you're just like, oh, hang on, this is a bit bigger. I'm a believer is write 3 things down. Right, I mean, I can't remember many more than 3 things. So, write down 3 things. What are you concerned about, and what is the solution to that? It's just a, back of a piece of paper or whatever, and have a conversation with your colleagues. Right, these are the 3 concerns we've got. How are we going to do it? Who's going to own that, and who's going to deliver that? So you absolutely do. But I think if you break it down into bite-sized chunks and keep it to 3, you'll be onto a winner.
People talk about scaling maintenance service, maybe if they want to do it across Europe. What's the hardest thing about doing that, actually scaling a service which is uniformed across different geos?
I think that's
tough, isn't it?
It is tricky, but I think it just goes back to that same point about, right, how do I ensure I get consistency? And I think having fewer people in the back end to deliver it, and someone who can orchestrate it is really important. You might save a few points by going to each country, for example, or things like that, but it's all about orchestrating it and getting it into one piece, and that consistency. It's a massive point, and making sure there's structure to go and deliver that.
We talked off camera about constantly improving, whether it's staff, efficiencies, operations, etc. How do you do that personally, and how do you do that for your team? How do you actually constantly try and improve?
So I'm a huge believer in this, which is around continuous improvement. It's one of our shared values in our business, but it's just one of my personal beliefs, really. So I ask every staff member in our organisation, we've got 110 people, to make at least 1 process improvement or 1 customer experience improvement per month. So
every month? Every
single month. And what we do is celebrate it every quarter. And I read through every single one that's been captured. And I will look at them and I'll shout out the kind of top 10, top 15. And then we call out a champion of the quarter. I think it's something great to have, because personally, I love seeing things, right, okay, where was it? How is it looking now? It might be experience of a customer. Are they happier? Are they, or has something, my route from A to B, have I got quicker? Have I done it in fewer steps? I think that's a huge achievement, to go home and go, yeah, I made a difference today. That's a really important attribute. So we ask everyone to do it. Look, we get some people who absolutely fly for it. The kind of typical 80-20 rule. 20% of them are absolutely on fire, and I love seeing it. And we shout them out, and I actually go in and ask and check some of those and go, actually, how did it really change? Some of them are really small, by the way. Yeah. So it might save yourself 10 seconds a day. We're not necessarily looking for the golden moments. I'd love loads of the golden moments, right? But it's about the incremental improvement, because I think it's more a cultural piece, and we really do focus and celebrate on them.
The 1% changes.
Yeah, well, you look at all top performing athletes, right? What are they looking at? They're looking at, how do they improve because it's so competitive, and it's a marginal gains principle.
Again, in a recent article, you talked about the circular economy. How much does ESG is a genuine operational change, or is it just about doing that to gain and say win more business, really?
We're quite fortunate as a business in that what we do is we do help extend the life of technology. So our business is naturally set up for that. 3 years ago, we made a conscious effort as a board to say, right, we want to make a change in our organisation. And so we got together a committee of members internally, which we rotate every 12 months. And people make contributions to that every quarter about what we can change. We actually have an independent auditor who comes in and checks those changes and measures them. It's probably more intrusive than a financial audit, which is interesting, and because we want to make sure that what changes are we making are measurable, and we fit that into continuous improvements as well. But ultimately, I think the ESG point, you could spend absolute tons and tons of money on, making it perfect. Well, it's more about that continuous evolution of it, and making those easy changes quickly, whilst focusing on the customer, because you can make the change and it might be more environmentally friendly, but actually the customer's getting a worse service. Well, there's a balance to be had there. Our mission here is to drive services for our customers at scale. We can't we can't distract ourselves from that as well.
You mentioned AI, and everyone's talking about AI, Andy, all the time. Do you think it's going to reduce headcount? And because I saw in an article you didn't think it was, and I was thinking, is Andy being honest here? Does he really believe it's not going to reduce headcount? Do you actually think it won't, or is it just delaying the inevitable?
I think the AI piece is, I'm no expert, right? I'm not going to profess to be. I've spent a lot of time in the past with software developers who are building AI type products in the past, kind of looking back 8 years ago. So I'm familiar with understanding it. I think that with larger organisations, it's really easier, I should say, to reduce headcount, because you've got large-scale processes done by many, many people. And therefore, by increasing the productivity of that, naturally, you don't need as many people. When you come down to medium-sized organisations or smaller-sized organisations, it's probably about making that person more efficient. I've only got 110 people within our organisation, so, can I do something that, if I just shave off 5%, probably improve productivity by 5% of each individual role, it's difficult for me to go, well, actually, how do I merge that together? So I think it is a real point for us, but it's specific to us. It's not specific, general across the board.
Yeah.
We're growing. We have ambitions to continue to grow, and therefore, if we do make efficiencies that does lead to that, well, we want to be able to give people the opportunity to grow into either new roles or offer more value to the customer.
Do you think it's helped level the playing field for smaller companies? Because as you were talking now, I was thinking, actually, if Smart CT or any small organisation, say under 500 staff, their ability to take on more work and be more efficient is great. So if they had headcount for maybe 30, it might be only 20 they take on because there's some efficiencies. But for the bigger organisations, they're a bit more clunky. They've probably got more people in process roles. It is harder to move. So do you see AI as an advantage for smaller companies?
I think just like technology in general, yes, it is, right? If you can make the process of the customer's experience, more transparent, clearer, that absolutely helps you demonstrate, about winning that new business, for example, against a larger organisation. Does it level the playing field? I don't know. In reality, I think some of the larger organisations can throw more cash at things as well, which has a big material effect. But I think it's allowed organisations to grow faster. In terms of their service offering, not necessarily a financial growth, but there's a great opportunity, right? You can show a customer something better than they had yesterday. Well, they're more likely to stay with you. Or you show a customer a new prospect that, okay, well, we can do this. Oh, great. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. My last question, Andy, and don't sit on the fence and don't say Smart CT. In 2026, what is the one company that you think they're going to do pretty well? Who's the one to watch?
I think organisations that are really specific about the industry they're going after and there might be a few that they will do exceptionally well. And the reason for that is that I think there's a lot to talk about the buying cycle of buying anything is almost by a greater number of people. So therefore, the sales cycle's got a lot slower than it probably did 10 years ago. People want more data to back up evidence. They want more, different questions, and you might have 5 or 6 buyer personas when you're going out to your customers. So I think those organisations that are offering, really bespoke to that industry will do better, because where that kind of almost a committee of people who are deciding, they've got better reference points to say, yes, they can deliver that service for me.
That's sitting on the fence. Who is the company?
No, I'm coming to it.
Oh, good. You're coming to it. I probably have done it. I'm thinking.
I wasn't cheating. It. There's a business at MSP called Evolve, based in Wigan. They've got a fantastic leadership team, and they've got a real focus on a certain industry segment. And I think exceptional business, and I hope they do exceptionally well for themselves.
Evolve. Okay, interesting. Andy, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. Channel Chat is partnered with Arrowsphere, AMD, Checkpoint, Sonic Wall, Enable, Pure Channels and Comms. See you next time.